Welcome to Fit in Fitness, the podcast that proves movement isn't just for the gym, it's for life. I'm Carly Fouth, also known as Fit Fun Carly. I'm a cancer survivor, fitness mentor, and founder of the Fit in Fitness method. This all started from my chemo chair, where I began sharing stories to bring hope and resilience to people going through cancer. Now I'm taking it further, expanding beyond my own breast cancer fight to highlight people from all walks of life who've used movement and mindset to overcome life's biggest curveballs. Whether you're facing illness, lost, or just feeling stuck, these are stories of grit, joy, and the small, powerful steps that can change everything. Welcome to the Fit in Fitness podcast, where we dive into powerful stories of people who have used movement and exercise to face down some of life's toughest challenges. Today's guest is a true pioneer in the world of cancer and exercise, Dr. Anna Schwartz. She's a nurse practitioner, or was a nurse practitioner, a researcher, and one of the leading voices behind the movement to make exercise a standard part of cancer care. She spent decades studying how physical activity helps patients not only to survive, but thrive. Anna is the CEO of Coleman Health, creator of the Cancer Exercise app, and quite literally wrote the book on exercise oncology. Whether you're a survivor, a caregiver, or a fitness pro, this episode is packed with insight, inspiration, and actionable advice you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. So I have met the nicest people on LinkedIn, and I've said this before, but it took me a lot of years to feel comfortable about posting on LinkedIn. I was active on Facebook and Instagram, but I don't know, LinkedIn intimidated me. But once I got going and I started posting, I have to say, I've met the nicest people on LinkedIn, connected with them. Some of them had been guests on my podcast. Some of them have become friends. And today I'm really excited to welcome Anna Schwartz, who is somebody that I connected with on LinkedIn once I got my confidence up and I started posting a little bit about my story and what I've been doing. So Anna, thank you so much for taking the time to be on my podcast.
Thank you, Carly. It's great to be here, and I'm excited to talk with you today about our favorite subject, clearly.
Our favorite subject. So today we're going to be talking about cancer exercise, and we're going to get right into the interview because I just feel like I have so much to talk about with Anna, and I'm very excited, and I do like to keep these to 20 to 30 minutes, so I want to make sure that we can get as much information in as possible. So Anna, why don't we start? You've been a pioneer in the field of cancer and exercise for decades. So I'm curious what first sparked your interest in this intersection of cancer and exercise, and how has the landscape changed since you first started? Because it's changing quickly now as well.
It is amazing what's happening in cancer and exercise. So I got into exercise and cancer on my own personal unfortunate journey. I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I was a new nurse working in a bone marrow transplant unit in the 80s. So it was really, really experimental time. And probably 50% of our patients didn't survive the whole transplant process. So things have really changed on the transplant front. But when I was diagnosed, I suddenly realized, I was really naive nurse. I wanted to work in an area that was cutting edge and pushing the limits. And bone marrow transplant was all research. And so I took the job. I had just been diagnosed with lymphoma. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I have the same diagnosis that my patients do, and they're not living. And I got really depressed. I already had profound fatigue from the treatment. This was in the days when we didn't have good antiemetics, the anti-nausea drugs, and I was sick as a dog, and I was gaining weight at the same time, which was just like, this makes no sense. And my doctors kept saying, you need to rest more. You need to take time off. You need to just, take care of yourself. And so I was trying to take care of myself. And the more I took care of myself, the worse I felt. And one day I went out and I was just more active than I usually was. And I came home and I'm like, wow, I feel better today. And I also at the same time was really thinking, if I'm approaching the end of my life, I need to do something with it. I need to start doing the things I've always wanted to do. So I started riding my bike a lot because one of my dreams had always been to ride my bike across the United States. And so I started riding my bike and I saw that, hey, I feel good again. I mean, not like I did before cancer, but I started feeling strong. My depression was getting better. My anxiety was better. I was sleeping better at night. I felt better when I went to work. I mean, my whole world was changing. Oh, yeah, and my body was totally changing. And I was starting to lose weight, and I could see I was getting some muscles. And then I started wondering, because I also have a degree in exercise physiology. And so I went back and I looked at the literature and I saw that really there had been exactly one study that had looked at the effect of exercise in cancer patients. It was a high intensity interval training program, and it, showed positive effects, particularly for nausea. But it also showed that people got fitter and faster.
Hmm.
Very small study, but it made me think I should go back and study this, because I would get some of my transplant patients to get up and walk around, and their face would light up that they could get better and feel better by doing something as small as that in their little room. So that got me to go back to school and do actually became a nurse practitioner, and then got a PhD and started my whole career in exercise oncology. And at that point, when I first wanted to do research with cancer patients, people were like, we're not sure they can do it. This might be dangerous. They probably aren't going to exercise during treatment anyway. And I'm like, I think they will.
Hmm.
And so I started, I did a survey first of physically active cancer survivors through Runner's World and Bicycling Magazine and those kind of things, and got an overwhelming response. And I was like, see, people will do this.
Yeah.
And then I started my research. And in 2010, so this was like springing forward almost 20 years. Um, we convened a small group of people through the American College of Sports Medicine and wrote the first exercise recommendations for cancer survivors. They had to be recommendations because we didn't have very much research in 2010. But spring forward, to today, and now there are well over 15, probably 20,000 articles just about exercise oncology, in different types of cancers, across the spectrum. So it's absolutely phenomenal to see this field explode. We're moving towards making it standard of care, trying to get insurance reimbursement for it. So it's incredibly exciting. It's been such an amazing life journey and career. I'm very grateful.
You're my hero because I think because I have been, and I've been very vocal about this. I get very frustrated about the fact, yeah, that yes, there's this research that coming out, so much of it, how important exercise is during cancer. And I've lived it, but I still feel like it's so slow to get the research applied to the patients. And I'm thinking about when you first started, because I mean, you went through a cancer journey, so
Mhm.
you lived it too. And to be able to see that from when there was nothing, at least there's something now. There is the research out there, but being able to take that personal experience and be able to really apply that to your career as well to push things forward, that must be so incredibly exciting. I want to ask you about the rest that you talked about, because even being diagnosed in 2024,
Mhm.
that's a long time after you were diagnosed and you
Mhm.
were told to rest. I was still told to rest. My oncologist, I love her to death. She admitted she didn't know that much about exercise for cancer patients, but she did recommend a book to me. But even when I called, if I had certain symptoms, like I had something with my feet were very painful. And I remember the person I talked to said, "Oh, Carly, haven't you ever heard of rest?" And that set, I was like, I just mean like I hung up the phone and I went for a run. Like I was like, "Oh, give me a break." So
Yeah.
how do you feel personally? I don't know, like when you come up against, if you are coming up against walls about how we're getting this research to the patient, like do you get frustrated? Like what's your mindset right now about how things are moving forward?
Things in the research world are exploding, but moving forward and educating current providers and changing people's mindsets I think that's really the biggest obstacle.
Hmm.
And anyone who works with me quickly learns you're not going to tell patients to go home and rest. So I've had the opportunity to educate people from the front desk, through physicians and all kinds of different people, but it's still a small group. And so I was so passionate about this that in 2004, I wrote my first book, Cancer Fitness. And that was really to try and get this, what I thought at that point, I mean, this is total no-brainer research. Everybody should be exercising. And the book was written way ahead of its time,
Mm.
and actually the information in the book today is as relevant as, it's more relevant now than it was then. It's, there's nothing probably I would change in the book. I might have to go back and read every page, but
Yeah.
basically the same advice. And
Yeah.
what I told people to do in 2004 are the recommendations we have today.
It's
Um,
amazing.
so yeah, so in some ways, yes, to me, things are moving so slowly. And, I developed the cancer exercise app because I know patients want correct information that's credible, that's research based. So I developed the app, which is completely
Yeah, tell us about
individualized.
the app because that was my next question Anna developed this cancer exercise app to bring personalized exercise guidance to patients. So, yeah, tell us more about that app and how you came up with the idea to start it and what that journey was like.
Yeah, so I came up with the idea to start it back in about 2018. And what I did is I took 30 years of research and I worked with a statistician. We came up with different algorithms for what's the optimal exercise prescription. They're all really based on fatigue and where you are in treatment, your stage of disease. And if you're not in treatment, it still works. And it provides an everyday exercise prescription. Whether you're so debilitated that you can barely get up and walk, it will get you stronger with progressive exercise. Or whether you're like Carly and you're really fit and you want to maintain that or improve, and you will get stronger and fitter and faster doing it. And so my whole thinking was, man, we are not getting this information out to patients, and 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 I live in a very rural area where people don't, there is nobody in Northern Arizona who is certified in a cancer exercise certified trainer. And so
None?
I really, truly, they're certified. There are lots of certified trainers, but nobody specialized in cancer. Um, and so I thought, well, I can create this app. It's got to be really simple, really user friendly. And right now it's free, and be able to give people an individualized exercise prescription no matter where you live. So I've got people actually all over the world. There are, I think, almost 80,000 users right now all over the world. And what I'm really hoping is that I can eventually get some funding to put AI in there so that when you start to use the app, boom, it'll know your language. It'll translate
Hmm.
everything into your language. And then there's a bunch of other stuff I'd like to do, but it all requires a lot of funding to be able to
Yeah.
improve it in these ways. But it will
I'm
come.
just shocked. I'm shocked that I did not know about your app. Like I would have loved your app when I was
Yeah,
diagnosed because I thought to myself, how the heck am I going to keep going with my job? I'm a fitness instructor who works by myself. I
right.
didn't know anything. I honestly thought that I couldn't exercise with cancer until I did my own research, but I could have really used your app. So I feel like I feel like you need to get into every single cancer center and like in front of every single doctor. I really do, because that is the easiest way to get to patients, I feel like, because it's right at their fingertips.
And it's very simple for them. All I have to do is say, here, use this app. And
Yeah. And it's
yeah,
free.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about how you recommend patients and providers work together to create safe and effective exercise plans, especially like we talked about when energy levels and side effects can vary day to day. They can vary from each types of cancer, each types of drugs gives you different things. So how do you, if let's say they don't have access, like let's hope they have access to your app, but if they don't, how do you recommend if somebody's listening today and they're maybe they will use your app, but how do you recommend patients and providers work together and caregivers to come up with a good system
Yeah.
for the
Well, the
patient?
app actually has an option for a caregiver and a survivor to both use it so
Oh, that's
that,
awesome.
so that people can work together, because you're more likely to exercise if you have a partner. And it
True.
will give you two different exercise prescriptions, but they're exercises you can do together. And when I was a bike racer, I was a world-class cyclist. Well, we did a lot of coaching, and people were like, "I can't ride with you. You're way faster than we are. You're way," I'm like, "No, you're wrong. We all ride out really slowly and, warm up together. Then we do our intervals. We regroup after every interval." And people were they were like, "Wow, I can train with you guys," starry-eyed. Um,
Yeah.
so the app works like that so that people can exercise together. But I think the biggest thing is really educating healthcare providers and getting them to understand that they have to tell people to exercise. It will make them more successful with treatment. They're going to more likely to get full dose of treatment, have a good response to treatment, tolerate the treatment better. And those are the keys to optimizing the chances for a cure for a patient. Um,
Yeah. And
so,
I
and
also think like what your app is such a great solution because I've also talked about how frustrating it is to be at a satellite office of a very impressive cancer center.
right.
And yes, if you go into Boston, into the main center, they do have fitness options. But if you're somebody on the outside, I didn't even know that they had it, and it's not easily accessible. And when you're talking about living in a rural area, I feel like that checks all the boxes of how doctors could get the exercise to their patients because everybody can have access to it. It seems to check all the boxes. It's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is, and it's what I call the easy button for doctors. If they just say, "Hey, download the Cancer Exercise app," it's available for Android and for Apple-based phones, um, or a tablet. So that was the purpose, to make it really, really simple. Um,
I
so
also think that a lot of doctors, and I wonder if you agree with this too, doctors are I don't think that they should have to wear every single hat. And I think that a
absolutely,
lot of them are comfortable talking about exercise because maybe they don't exercise or they don't feel like they know enough about it, or maybe they don't have the time to talk about it. Do you find that too? Is that,
absolutely. They
yeah,
want to
yeah,
tell patients to exercise. They don't know what to tell them. And there's so little time in a clinic visit that they're not going to sit there and go through, well, do you do resistance? Have you ever done aerobic? They're not going to do that. Um, and they've got so many patients to see. And with all the new reimbursement guidelines, it makes treating patients really in a personalized way very difficult.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
They have a tough job. They really do have a tough
really
job,
tough
and
job.
they're not doing it on purpose. I never want
No.
anyone to think that I'm throwing daggers at doctors. They're so important. I'm actually
Yeah.
defending them that they need to be pulling in
Right.
other people like
Right.
you
I mean,
and
even a
like me.
medical assistant can tell a patient, it's really important that you're exercising. The guidelines are for, X, Y, and Z. You should exercise, try and reach 150 minutes a day, work up to 300 minutes, do some resistance exercise 2 or 3 days a week. And if you don't know where to go, here's where to go for the information, whether it's my app or the ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine. We've created so many handouts and informational sheets for patients. They don't need to go and run a marathon. Walking to their
No.
mailbox is a huge first step.
Yes,
Um,
I totally
and
agree.
yeah, and people get this conceived notion. So often I'll sit down with patients and I'll say, "Well, have you ever exercised and what have you done?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I used to run 3 miles a day." And so they have in their mind that they can start out running a mile. And I'm like, "No, that's not going to work. You need to
Mhm.
start off really slowly and maybe walking a mile to start and then building up
Mhm.
from there."
Yeah.
But we all think back to when we were really young and fit and strong and could do anything. And, a little bit of time's passed and our bodies have changed and our cardiovascular fitness has changed. So,
So starting
yeah,
small and then
yeah.
building back up. So you must have can have had patients reach out to you and tell you how much your app has meant to them. I'm wondering if you have any story that sticks out in your head of someone where you were like, and you're just getting like that pat on the back that all the hard work you have done to help people has actually helped a person who has reached out to you. There's no better feeling. So do you have a story of a patient
I
who's
get emails all the time from people all over the world, which is what's just amazing. When I get, I got an email from an elderly, well, not elderly, he was 60, but he was really debilitated. And he was living in North Africa, and he said he found my app on the internet just randomly and started doing it, and now he can return to, doing his usual activities outside, which he's a farmer. So, and he
Mhm.
hadn't been able to do that. So, I get things like that. I get emails from, people who have really restored their vitality and their life again. And that's what my work is all about, is seeing people's lives being transformed by exercise.
And you've made really good lemonade out of rotten lemons. Just like that's what I talk about all the time. It's like you and I both have taken something that we made. You probably never saw it coming either, but something that's like everyone's worst fear. But like, yeah, it could send you down the rabbit hole and you could just lay down and pull the covers up over your head. But you too have taken that and been like, no, what can I do with this? How can I help? So I
Exactly.
think the fact that you've gone through it makes you even more credible, and it makes me like you even more. Now I
That's
want to tell
funny.
everyone about your app. I'm so glad that I
Good.
found it, because I have people ask me, and sometimes people, they can't afford to pay a
Right.
personal trainer for cancer exercise, and
Oh,
I never
yeah,
that
frequently.
always makes me feel terrible. So now I have your app. I can share
Mhm.
your app. That makes me feel really happy.
Oh,
What's
good.
next for you? So like, are you going to continue more with the app, or like, is there anything on the horizon that you can tell us about that's coming up?
So, I've got a couple of research grants that are in review. You never know what happens with those. But the app is, continuing to build and evolve the app to put in more supportive features for patients. Things that people really like. I'd love to be able to create a social network connection for people through the app, of users. Um, right now, I left academia about a year ago. I'm really focused on providing really personalized, high level care to help cancer patients transform their lives through a program that I've developed called Strength for Living. And so it's exercise, but it's a whole lot more than that. It's really using precision medicine and all this AI healthcare that we have, and using it from a prevention standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
looking at, what's going on in your microbiome. How can we improve your energy? And so it's really exciting work. It's transforming people's lives. It's helping them recover. Well, it's helping them tolerate treatment more and recover more quickly after their treatment ends. So, it's fun and it's exciting. Um, and I still want to I still do a lot of the stuff that I do in academia. I do a lot of writing. And I just published with Katie Schmitz and Anna Campbell.
Well, I know Katie. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know Anna too. Yeah.
yeah. The Essentials of Exercise Oncology is the first textbook really for undergraduate students. So I'm hoping, in the future, as that one gets, through the pipeline, then we can work on writing the graduate text for it. So,
Well, I'm going to ask you a question that
yeah,
I didn't prepare you for, but
oh,
I like to keep people on their toes. So this
yeah.
is not related to any, I guess it could be, but what's one thing that we may be surprised to know about you? This is more of like a fun personal question.
Yeah. So I was a world class bicycle racer for many years, set some world records. I guess the surprising thing is now I'm a horse addict, and I show
Oh,
in reining horses, and I show, at like all the big national events in the country. And I'm going to show in the Run for the Million, which is,
very cool.
yeah, which is a really big show in Las Vegas next week. So,
How great.
so that's my addiction. I drive from Flagstaff to Phoenix every week to ride my horse for 2 or 3 days and, train on him. And it's a real motivation to keep myself fit and strong, and stay lean.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that. Well, I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for talking to me about it. This has been a passion of mine, and it's also been very frustrating at times. But then when I talk to people like you, it gives me hope and makes me feel motivated to keep going. And I just really appreciate everything that you've done. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for joining me on Fit in Fitness. My hope is that every episode inspires you to see movement as medicine for your body, mind, and spirit. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow the show, share it with a friend, and keep moving forward, one step, rep, or breath at a time. Until next time, keep fitting in fitness wherever life takes you.